Hello and welcome to another Protagonist Science video. Today I want to talk about genomes and the future of biological life itself. A genome is this almost mystical part of code that constitutes the core building instructions of every living organism. Within the genome, we find genes and pseudogenes, promoters, repetitive domains, non-coding regions, remnants of viral integrations and our evolutionary past, and honestly, just stuff that seems plainly random. Above all, however, we find complexity we have yet to fully grasp. A genome is nature's solution to store useful information in physical form. All the beauty and wonder, all the surprises and freak life forms nature has to offer boil down to modifications and differences in this core unit of every living thing. It is hard for me to describe, even after a decade of studying it, how profoundly fascinating genomes are. They connect us in an unbroken chain of life to the very first beings in existence on this planet. They make us unique, an instantiation of the universe that never was and never will be again, but for this brief moment in us. No two humans will ever share identical genomes. Studying genomes also breaks open what we thought we knew about the world. It explains why species form and subside. It also shows us how narrow and often futile our human attempts at classifications are in the first place. Take, for example, a species of salamander in the genus Ambystoma. This salamander is unisexual, it has only females, and cannot reproduce on its own. So they steal sperm from other Ambystoma species to fertilize their eggs, a process known as kleptogenesis. The genome of each subsequent generation of that salamander is thus an amalgamation of multiple species with flexible ploidies, and yet these salamanders live and thrive. Life can be messy, but it usually finds a way. Our own genomes show us that we are not so dissimilar to our closest cousins, or most other animals for that matter. We share genetic elements not only with the great apes, but also rodents, fish, and even plants. Which might be important to remember, because the biggest changes to all genomes on this planet are yet to come by our very own hands. To understand how profound today is, we have to first look back. For the last 3 billion years, the diversity and character of all genomes had been shaped by one mechanism, and one mechanism only: evolution by natural selection, as first outlined by Charles Darwin. Then, about 10,000 years ago, we humans came with our breeding of crops and domestication of animals, slowly taking over from evolution by doing the selection ourselves. Although primitive in technology, human selection and breeding accounts for the largest genomic shifts we have ever seen on such a short timescale. From cattle to dog breeds, from wheat, rice and corn, or sweet potato and coffee, essentially nothing we farm or consume today is in its natural state. Of course, any dominant species will have a profound impact on the genomes of its surrounding ecosystem. That is not unique to us. We could take the example of wolves in Yellowstone, where both their extinction and reintroduction 70 years later had profound impacts on the whole ecosystem, from elk to trees to vegetation and even river topology. One could argue that life is in constant flux, that nature will just adapt and form new stable ecosystems around our presence like it did for all other species. But that line of argumentation fundamentally changed with our discovery of DNA, the development of genome sequencing technologies, and finally, genetic engineering. It is difficult to pick a spot in time when we stepped out of our evolutionary shadow. Was it the discovery of CRISPR gene editing tools by Doudna and Carpentier, already used to edit the genomes of 2 Chinese girls born in 2018? Or was it the development of induced pluripotent stem cells by Yamanaka in 2006? maybe the first complete sequencing of the human genome in 2004 by the joint effort of multiple nations would be a fitting starting point for the age of designer genomics. I can't really say. In the end, the when is not as important as the realization that we did enter a new age. How wonder or awful that new age will turn out to be is however best illustrated on the example of gene drives. Gene drives are based on self-promoting genetic elements, a set of genes that increase their own chance of being inherited by destroying all genomes that do not contain them. While these selfish elements are rare in nature, their mode of self-replication can be adopted with modern gene engineering tools to spread a desired genetic trait through a population of sexually producing animals or plants. The neat and dangerous part about gene drives is that once they are released, they will continue spreading until eventually every last offspring of the targeted species will be genetically modified. Needless to say, the first gene drives currently in use are of course designed to eradicate species we humans deem a nuisance, like mosquitoes that carry pathogens or weeds that interfere with our crops. The potential and peril of gene drives and genetic engineering seems endless. Designer genomes are here to stay and might even become the norm in the future. Which begs the question, what are we truly designing for? The biggest and most dramatic genetic engineering project we have is the one we are currently part of. Our iron will to subjugate nature, to shape our planet and every last ecosystem to our needs and whims is far more disruptive than any gene engineering technology we can conceive of today. For all the good our dominance over nature has brought us, the accompanying loss of genomic variety and biodiversity since the emergence of human civilization will be our genomic record of shame forever. Collectively, we are the 6th great mass extinction, a natural disaster only comparable to a meteorite impact or a supervolcano explosion, an event so drastic most life cannot cope with. We might not think about it on a daily basis or grasp the far-ranging consequences, but deep down, we sense our planet slowly falling apart and feel that we are to blame. It is a terrible burden we have to shoulder, weighing our existence and prosperity against that of all other life forms. We are responsible and yet seem incapable of stopping our collective impact on biodiversity. We instinctively push the awareness aside because it seems hopeless. We cannot go back to a pre-Holocenic world, nor should we want to. So we close our eyes and keep living on borrowed time while subconscious dread and guilt follows us around. But it doesn't have to be this way. Let me offer you a more hopeful ending, or rather a new beginning to the future of biological life. It starts today with the realization that we finally have to pick up the mantle of responsibility for all life on this planet. We have to understand that evolution by natural selection was neither a good or bad mechanism, but all life had at the time, an efficient algorithm to produce stable ecosystems given generational timeframes. However, evolution cannot cope with the fast pace of change in the modern world or solve ecosystemic problems arising from human interaction. Only we can. Today, we can preserve, maintain, or even expand the biodiversity and ecosystems we still have, be it through targeted conservation, reforestation, or simply by reducing our environmental footprint with sustainable technologies. That includes food or energy production with engineered crops or recycling with designer microorganisms. Furthermore, we can utilize our technology to bring back species endangered or even extinct. We can discover novel ways to coexist sustainably and share resources fairly. We can move a step further and expand life for niche environments, create species hitherto unseen, open up the driest deserts, the highest mountains, the densest cities, even other planets or deep space for life. Facilitating life beyond Earth might even be our purpose of choice. The limit is, as always, our imagination. I am not saying it will be easy, because it will not. With the discovery of the genetic code, we became stewards of a process that has been ongoing for at least 3 billion years. And after countless struggles for existence against the odds, we became the ones who won the genetic lottery, for us and for all of life. It now falls on us to muster the same energy, creativity and innovation which was gifted to us by evolution and extended towards all other life forms. Not only because they deserve it, but because it is in our own interest. From our distant cousins down to the microbe, we are only alive today because we evolved together as part of a diverse ecosystem of give and take. It is unlikely we could cope by ourselves. We evolved together, we are stronger together, and we will be forever connected by that mystical piece of code that runs the software of life. If anybody has the power to protect that precious part, it has to be us. Willingly or not, we are the guardians of the genomes now.